Sometimes we forget that our role in other people's lives is not to be their savior, their fixture, or their emotional crutch. We begin to take responsibility for things that were never ours to carry. Islam teaches us balance, emotional, spiritual, and social. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is to understand that you are not responsible for everyone else's happiness or healing. Yes, we must be kind. Yes, we must help. But when that help begins to drown you, you must pause and reassess. Allah says in the Quran, LJ, yukallifuhu nafsan il wusha. Allah does not burden a soul more than it can bear. Then why do you burden yourself with what Allah has not written upon you? There are people in your life who will expect you to carry their emotional baggage endlessly. They will rely on your silence, your patience, your good heart, not to improve, but to continue their habits. And the more you carry them, the more they unload, and they get lighter, and you become heavier, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. This is not what Islam expects from you. Helping others is noble, but losing yourself in the process is not noble. It's harmful. Sometimes Shaitan uses guilt to keep you stuck in draining relationships, making you feel that walking away is selfish. But in reality, preserving your soul is not selfish. It's necessary. You are not their healer. Allah is. You are not the changer of hearts. Allah is. And you are not the one who will fix what's broken inside them if they don't want to change. You see, even the Prophet Muhammad was told not to grieve excessively over those who turned away from the truth. Allah reminded him, your job is only to convey the message. Guidance is in Allah's hands. If the Prophet was not made responsible for the hearts of people, who are we to think that we are responsible for making people better at the cost of our peace? You can advise, you can support, but you cannot sacrifice your stability for those who refuse to carry their share of the burden. Stop walking into the fire thinking you can put it out while you're the one getting burned. It's not selfish to create space. It's not wrong to say, I've done my part. Now I leave it to Allah. The most dangerous trap is when your goodness becomes the reason for your exhaustion. Don't let your kindness become your weakness. Islam teaches you to love for your brother what you love for yourself. That includes loving peace, mental health, and connection to Allah. When you allow others to constantly pull you away from that, you are loving them more than you're loving your own soul. And that's not balance. That's not healthy. So understand this. Letting go of unnecessary burdens is not abandonment. It is wisdom. Focus on yourself. Heal. Grow. Let Allah take care of the rest. Letting go is hard, especially when your heart is sincere, when you genuinely want the best for others. But sometimes your progress is blocked not by obstacles in your path, but by the people you've allowed to walk beside you. Healing truly begins when you recognize that some connections are no longer part of your journey. You can't keep watering dead plants and expect a garden to grow. Islam teaches us to surround ourselves with those who remind us of Allah, who bring peace into our lives, who uplift us, not those who constantly drain us. manipulate us, or make us feel small. There are individuals who repeatedly harm you, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and each time you forgive, they see it not as mercy, but as permission to do it again. Your silence becomes their license. You find yourself walking on eggshells, afraid to speak your truth, afraid to disappoint them, while slowly betraying your own self. That's not healing, that's suffocation. And the moment you decide to step back, to remove yourself from the chaos, that's when the true healing begins. It's not easy, but it's necessary. You were not created to live in emotional chains. You were created with honor, with dignity, and with purpose. Even in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, there were people he had to distance himself from. Not out of pride, but out of wisdom. The Quraysh rejected him, mocked him, hurt him. And though he had immense love for his people, he was not asked to stay in their toxic environment. Allah took him away from that setting. The hijrah to Medina wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. It was about moving from a place of hurt to a place of growth. And sometimes your healing requires the saming, a personal hijrah from what hurts you to what heals you. When you keep the wrong people close, you limit the space for the right people to enter. You block the mercy Allah wants to send your way because you're still holding on to what He's trying to remove. Every relationship that drains you is a test. Will you love Allah more than you love that comfort? Will you choose peace over chaos, dignity over attachment, truth over illusion? Healing is painful, yes, it feels like loss. But that space you create by letting go becomes the space where your soul breathes again, where you find yourself again, where your does finally begin to take root. So don't be afraid to release what is holding you back. You're not being cold. You're not being cruel. You're being honest with yourself and with your Lord. Trust that what you lose for His sake will always be replaced with something better. And know this, you can't truly focus on your healing while still clinging to the ones who broke you. Let them go. Allah handle what you cannot. Your peace is worth that. Your growth depends on it. One of the most powerful things a believer can do is turn inward and ask, where do I stand with Allah? In a world that constantly pushes us to monitor others, what they say, what they do, how they live. It takes discipline and sincerity to redirect that energy toward own soul. Islam is not about spying on others or obsessing over their mistakes. It is about refining your own heart, improving your character, and drawing closer to your Creator with every step. Self-reflection is not a modern idea. It is a deeply rooted sunnah. The Prophet Muhammad would regularly retreat in solitude, engaging in deep thought and prayer, searching his heart, and strengthening his connection with Allah even before revelation came. Too often, we exhaust ourselves trying to prove things to people who don't even understand our journey. We crave approval from those who might never be pleased with us. We waste precious time worrying about how others view us. Are we accepted, liked, understood? But in the process, we neglect the one opinion that truly matters, alas. When you focus too much on how people see you, you begin to lose sight of how Allah sees you. That's dangerous. That's when your sincerity begins to fade. And remember, Allah does not look at your appearance or status, but at your heart and your deeds. The heart is where everything begins. That's why the Prophet said, "Verily, in the body is a piece of flesh, which if sound, the whole body is sound. If it is corrupted, the whole body is corrupted. Verily, it is the heart. If your heart is filled with jealousy, resentment, and pride, your actions will reflect that, no matter how polished they may look on the outside. But if your heart is filled with sincerity, humility, and love for Allah, even your smallest actions will be blessed and elevated." That is why the believers constantly make dua for purification of the heart, turner of hearts. Keep my heart firm upon your religion, because they know that everything starts from within. It's easy to spot the faults of others. It's easy to blame, to judge, to criticize. But real strength is in looking at your own reflection and asking, how can I become better? Not better than others, but better than I was yesterday. That's the essence of Islam, continuous self-improvement rooted in the fear and love of Allah. That's what builds true character. It's not about the noise outside. It's about the stillness within. That's where real transformation happens. So stop comparing yourself. Stop chasing validation. Turn your gaze inward. Ask yourself daily, did I pray with sincerity? Did I hold my tongue when I wanted to lash out? Did I forgive when I could retaliate it? These are the real questions that define your path. When you begin to focus on your own heart, your own journey, and your own intentions, you free yourself from the chains of judgment and distraction. And that freedom is where you find peace. That's where you find Allah. Letting go of someone doesn't mean you hold hatred in your heart. It doesn't mean you wish them harm or carry bitterness against them. In fact, in many cases, it means you finally love yourself enough to protect your peace. Islam is not a religion that asks you to stay where you are mistreated. It doesn't ask you to tolerate toxic behavior in the name of named patience. Patience does not mean allowing your soul to be wounded over and over again. It means enduring hardship with dignity, but not becoming the doormat for someone else's chores. Some people will guilt you for walking away. They'll say you're being cold, unforgiving, arrogant. But they don't see the full story. They don't know how many chances you gave, how many nights you cried, how many prayers you made for that person. They don't understand the toll it took on your heart. Islam teaches us to be merciful, yes, but also to be wise. Mercy without boundaries leads to destruction. The Prophet Muhammad was the most merciful of all, yet he also distanced himself from those whose presence caused more harm than good. That wasn't pride, that was self-respect and divine wisdom. There's a difference between cutting someone off and setting a boundary. You can let someone go, but still make dua for them. You can walk away without bad mouthing them. You can choose silence over drama. That is a sign of spiritual maturity. You don't need to announce your departure from someone's life. Just quietly take the step that honors your well-being and leaves the matter to Allah. Because in the end, it is Allah who knows the hearts. It is He who sees the intentions behind the smiles, the pain behind the silence, sincerity behind the distance. Letting someone go is not an act of cruelty. It is often an act of self-care. You're not doing it to punish them. You're doing it to protect yourself, to heal, to breathe again. And sometimes it's only after stepping away that you realize how heavy the relationship really was. You begin to see things clearly. You begin to return to yourself. And most importantly, you begin to return to Allah, because some people were pulling you away from your faith, from your peace, from your true self. And now that you've let go, your heart feels lighter, your mind clearer, your soul more connected. Don't confuse letting go with failure. In fact, it may be the most courageous thing you've ever done. You chose peace over chaos. You chose dignity over attachment. And that's not weakness. That's strength. That's wisdom. That's growth. Allah does not ask you to hold on to every person who walks into your life. Some are there for a lesson, not a lifetime. Let them go with grace. Make dua for them. And then move forward, not with resentment, but with peace. Because your journey is sacred and it deserves people who walk with you, not against you. Your journey, no matter how hidden it may be from the world, is never hidden from Allah. Every silent tear you've shed, every sincere dua you've whispered, every quiet sacrifice you've made, all of it is known to the one who created you. That's why it's so important to understand that your path is not meant to be understood by everyone. You're not walking for people. You're walking for Allah. People may not see your effort. They might misjudge you, question your intentions, or criticize your choices. But Allah knows, and that should be enough. We live in a time where people are constantly watching each other, commenting, liking, judging, and reacting. And it's easy to start thinking that your progress must be proven to others. You begin measuring your success by how accepted or praised you are. But that is a trap. The moment you start living for people's approval is the moment you begin to lose your authenticity. The Prophet Muhammad faced this. He was mocked, insulted, rejected, but none of that changed his mission. He stayed sincere, focused, and connected to Allah. Why? Because his journey was not about people. It was about truth. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't owe the world your story. Allah is the one who writes your story. And when you truly believe that, you begin to walk differently. You walk with peace in your heart, even if others misunderstand you. You make decisions based on what pleases your Lord, not what earns applause. You remain firm even when you're alone because you know Allah is with you. And that belief, that deep, unshakable awareness of Allah is what gives you strength when everything around you feels uncertain. Sometimes you'll outgrow people, places, and situations. That's part of growth. That's part of walking your own path. People may say, "You've changed." And they're right. You have. You've changed because Allah opened your heart. You've changed because you finally chose what brings your soul closer to Him. Not everyone will understand that, and that's okay. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to fulfill a purpose. And purpose often requires walking away from the crowd, standing firm in your values, and choosing sincerity over popularity. When you remember that your journey is between you and Allah, you begin to focus on what truly matters. Your intentions, your efforts, your connection to your Creator, and suddenly the noise fades. The criticism doesn't sting as much. The opinions of others don't carry the same weight, because your heart is anchored in something greater, in the one who never misstages, who never turns away, who always sees the truth. So keep going. Even if no one claps for you, keep moving. Even if you walk alone, walk with dignity. Allah sees you. And that's all that matters. Sometimes the most painful separations in life are the very ones that bring the greatest clarity. When Allah removes someone from your life, don't always see it as a loss. Sometimes it's a form of divine protection. You may not understand it at first. It might hurt. It might feel like abandonment. But with time, you will realize that the silence, the distance, and the solitude were part of a bigger plan. Allah was preparing you. He was creating a space in your life for something better. Some people are not meant to be part of your future because they were damaging your soul in ways you couldn't see. Elevation often comes after isolation, that time when you felt alone, when you were separated from people you once trusted, when you were left questioning everything. That was not the end of your story. That was the beginning of your transformation. Think about the life of the Prophet Muhammad. Before he was sent as a messenger, he spent long periods in the cave of Hira, away from society, in solitude and reflection. That isolation wasn't a punishment. It was preparation. It was in the silence of that cave that the weight of revelation descended upon him. His greatest mission began in the quiet moments that no one else witnessed. Sometimes we become so attached to people that we allow them to define our worth. We let them shape how we see ourselves. And when they walk away, it feels like a piece of us is missing. But that's when Allah brings us back to Him. He reminds us that our worth was never meant to come from people. It was always in our connection to Him. When you go through separation, whether it's a friend, a relationship, a group, or even a lifestyle, you may feel like you've been broken. But often, that brokenness is where the light gets in. That's where the healing begins. That's where you start to rediscover your purpose. And when you begin to rise after that season of solitude, you rise differently. You walk with more strength, more wisdom, and more sincerity. You no longer chase people. You no longer seek validation. You've tasted the peace that comes with relying on Allah alone, and nothing else compares. That's elevation, not in the eyes of the world, but in the sight of your Creator. You become grounded. Your priorities shift. You start valuing what truly matters. Peace of mind, clarity of purpose, and a heart that is aligned with Allah. So if you find yourself in a season of disconnection, don't despair. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. Allah is not pushing you away from comfort to hurt you. He's pushing you away from distraction to guide you. The people who left, the relationships that ended, the circles that changed, none of it was random. It was all part of your elevation. Trust the process. Trust the one who controls it. Because what feels like isolation now may soon be revealed as one of the greatest gifts of your life. In the end, the journey back to yourself is, in reality, a journey back to Allah. When you stop chasing people who were never meant to stay, when you release the weight of trying to fix what was never yours to fix, and when you choose peace over chaos, something shifts within you. You begin to value silence. You begin to value sincerity. And most importantly, you begin to value your connection with your Creator above all else. Letting go is not failure. It's faith. It's saying, Ya Allah, I trust that what you remove, you replace with better. This world will always be filled with noise, people judging, leaving, disappointing, and misunderstanding. But when your heart is anchored in Allah, their noise no longer defines your path. You're no longer living to please people. You're no longer begging for love, for understanding, for acceptance. Because now you understand your worth was written by the one who created you, not the ones who walked away. So focus on yourself, not with arrogance, but with responsibility. Heal your heart, guard your peace, strengthen your faith, let go of what distracts you from your purpose, and walk forward knowing that your path is blessed even when it's quiet, even when it's lonely, because Allah is with you. And when you have Him, you've already won. May Allah purify our hearts, strengthen our steps, and guide us to people, places, and choices that draw us closer to Him. Ameen.